Praise and Production.
All right. I am continuing Gumbolaya podcast, Ramblin. This is me, C.A. Purcell. Blessings to you and your peoples. Gumbolaya podcast. Number 4. I'm going down the list. Link in the description, unless I forgot. Number 4. I'm going to skip. Number 4 is you can't love someone if you don't like anyone. Right? I feel like that's so similar to number 3. I'm gonna skip it. But that's number 4. It says you can't love somebody if you don't like nobody. Right? Number 5. There needs to be a balance of intimacy and space. I have had to I've had to learn a lot about what that means. In my marriage, it's been a bit of a struggle because my wife and I are a bit of polar opposites on this concept, right? She does very, very well with space because she is highly motivated. She's a high achiever. She is she's very high gear person, right? And left to her own devices, left to herself, she can do a lot in the same amount of time as other people would get some normal stuff done. Like she's no joke in terms of being able to focus, being able to be able to focus and push through and to goals. She's good at that. Left alone to focus, she can kill it. You know what I mean? And because she is highly ambitious, highly motivated, and a high gear person, she uses her time almost primarily geared towards achieving and doing and you know what I mean? She's definitely learning to find a healthy balance as she grows and matures as well. But she's a track star kind of person. She's like, you know what to do, focus and do it and get it done, right? She's great in that area, right? Me, I am very relationship minded. That's why I talk about it so much. Very, very much so. I talked in a previous episode that my love language is quality time. Very much so. I am happy spending a lot of time with people I care about. I mean a lot. I mean hours and hours and hours talking, chilling, not even doing anything necessarily significant, just being around someone. I love it. All right. I enjoy it. I'm a phone based, quality time. It can also be like phone stuff. I will be on the phone for hours. If I have the time, that's a good use of my time. And that's why I end up talking to so many people when, if you go back in the podcast episodes, when I was talking to this person, talking to that person, I meet up with people. I'm on the phone. I do a lot of emailing, a lot of DMing, long conversations. I used to spend way too much time in significant and serious conversations in social media. I don't do that no more because I've just learned that a lot of people aren't really trying to find enlightenment. They just want to yell their opinion the loudest, and I don't enjoy that. But intimacy and relationship is a joy of mine, right? So I don't get tired of being around people I love. I don't get tired of conversing. I don't get tired of hanging out. I don't get tired of quality time. I very rarely need space from people. Very, very rarely, if at all, right? So because of that, remember, she's a high achiever, high gear, highly ambitious, all those things. I am all about quality time. She feels better when not all the time, she's healthy, but she has a lot of weight in that area where if left alone, where she can focus and do her thing And her parents are similar as well. Like something I learned when I would go hang out with them, that, they would spend time together, and there would be several pockets during the day where they're just in different rooms and they're just doing their thing. It doesn't happen quite as much when we're visiting, because it's an occasion of togetherness. But I've noticed about them, even then, there's just some moments where they're all doing their own thing and it's fine. Versus at my home, we're almost always in the same room. That's the home I'm from. You know what I'm saying? Mom will be in the kitchen, so one of us will go in there and offer to help, and she don't let us help, but we're almost always in the same room. We're in the kitchen, at the table, in the family room, in the living room. Like, we're usually together, and we go somewhere together and we come back, and it's a lot of together. So that was my home life, right? So when we got married, there was a lot of that back and forth. A lot of my need for quality time and a lot of her need for the space to be left to do the things that she wants to do. And also sometimes just to be alone and have some peace without having to engage. For me, engagement is fuel. For her, solitude and being able to focus is energizing, because she gets things done, and she is, if you've ever studied different character types, she's a doer. She feels good when she finishes things, when she accomplishes things. She gets, she enjoys that. And then also just being able to disengage and not have to talk a lot, she enjoys that very much. So when we got married, back and forth. I need some more time. I need some more space, right? Got to find a balance. Over time, we've figured out better ways to strike that balance. And, in general, the big picture I'll just give you is looking at your schedules and your life and agreeing on time that will be spent in those different ways. Agreeing on times where you'll be separate, where you don't have to try and talk and negotiate it, because it's understood. This is some time I'm going to do this, right? Because when she's doing stuff, I got stuff to do too. So when she's doing stuff, I'll do stuff. Either I'll chill, or I have things I need to do as well. And it also is helpful to me, because that way I'm not chilling more than I should be, right? I'm not getting into the irresponsible, out of balance area of my life either, right? And on the flip side, we agree on time together. We agree on and try to hold to date nights and time where we spend time together, where we do the movie thing, we go places together, and we just hang out with each other. And it's great. It's great, especially when you can look forward to it and you can anticipate, you can plan, things like that, right? It's great. So you find the balance. You got to find that within yourself as well. But in a relationship, you have to find that balance, because sometimes some people find a partner who shares some people find partners who share the same balance that they want, and that's great. In my experience, most of the time you attract the opposite, or at least the differences between you and your partner will be exacerbated when you're together, because whoever wants more quality time will pull on it more. And then because the other person might still value quality time, but not need it as much, they have to fight for their space. So you end up kind of pulling away from each other, even when you might, I would probably say my wife and I we're different in that area. I was going to say because she enjoys and looks forward to quality time as well. Like, we love being together. We're very close. And so, there's a shared joy in that, but we are different. My wife is much more like my sister and my mother, in the respect that having their time to themselves is fuel. And I am much more like my dad. And I think my brother is like this as well, where time with people is my fuel, right? So the balance between intimacy and space is an integral part of how you can work with someone, how your relationship can work. And, taking a little time here and there, especially taking time when you start to feel friction in this area. Find some agreement. That's what relationships have to have as foundation, is the prioritization of agreement, because what you agree on in life, you'll be able to enjoy. What you don't agree on in life, you can agree to not have to do together. Like a lot of things in relationship, you don't have to do together. For example, you get it. That's easy. You don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to do everything. A good example. I just thought of one. I love good horror movies, and I like crazy, creepy, scary stuff, right? The slasher things usually don't scare me, because I'm like, I get it. The monster stuff or whatever. I like disturbing, scary stuff. I started watching horror movies when I was way too young. And so, like, a good one for me, for example, one of my faves, it was The Conjuring. That was some stuff, right? So I like that. My wife don't like horror movies, so we don't watch horror movies together. I actually found out some years ago that one of my older sisters loves horror movies. And Pat, if you're watching, we gotta watch some stuff. We gotta watch it. Also, for just as a side note, for people that love horror movies, there's a show I just found on Netflix called Cabinet of Curiosities. It's pretty cool. It's short stories. I think every episode is about 40 to 50 minutes long or whatever. It's pretty cool. It's for me, it's not really scary, but it's in the horror genre. You know what I mean? It's creepy stuff. And I've been enjoying it. I think it's very well done. So you should check it out. Cabinet of Curiosities. It's on Netflix, right? So you have to do everything together. And that can be a wonderful thing when you just realize. Another thing is gaming, for example. I love to game. My wife does not like gaming. She doesn't really enjoy it. Like every now and then, like when we used to go hang out with her nieces and nephews, or my nephews, there would be a game system there, and sometimes we would play together, and she join and have a little fun. But that's not something she does in her time. She doesn't get into it at all. You know what I mean? Me, love the game. I don't game a lot as much anymore because I be busy, but I love it. Like I'll if I can reason my way to legitimizing using my time like that, I'll game for weeks. Like, you know what I mean? There's been some times, like in between projects, where I didn't need to do anything because I'd made a good bit of money, and I literally just had time, and I knew another project was coming up, and I was straight chilling, gaming, right? I enjoy it. She doesn't, so we don't game. She does some stuff. Sometimes I'll game, whatever. Like, and if we have that planned time agreed upon and kind of set and identified, she'll be doing something or she'll go do something. I'll be chilling and gaming for a little bit. It's okay. I love going to gun ranges. She don't dig it. We go every now and then because, I need her to know how to handle it. So, in case there's a need, she can, pop, right? So we go for training purposes, but that's not fun for her. She likes to be like outside in the sun and in the woods and jump. I'll do it, but that ain't fun for me. And she like to be out in the summer, like it'd be 100 degrees outside and she is just happy and I'm dying. Sweat on the face, hot. She love it. I remember for one of her birthdays, we go, there's a there's just a lake that has a beach. She loves it. It was so hot, and several of us came. We all dying of heat, and she's just smiling and bouncing around, right? So I mean, we did that together, but in general, I'm like, yo, go be hot if that's what you want to do, and that's okay, right? That's an example of space. And then we do the things we do like to do together, And I think that can be a make or break. I think it could be a make or break. How many times have you had, difficult conversations, or you've seen other people engage in difficult conversations, or you heard people talk about having to fight with their significant other to spend time with them? Why don't you ever want to spend time with me? It's usually a female asking a male, why don't you want to spend time with me? But sometimes it's me. I'm the dude. I'm the one who's like, yo, why don't you hang out with me? You know what I mean? That was me. All right. So, or at least to my knowledge and in my experience, it's usually a female asking a male, what's up? But, people are different. You know what I mean? I mean, I would imagine in the situation of a same-sex couple, there is no other. So one of them will want more intimacy, and one of them will appreciate space, and you gotta work it out, right? So whatever the combination might be, whatever the partnership might be, there will still always be one person who feels a little more left, another person that feels a little bit more right. And if you find someone that kind of connects and sees things the same way you do, that's a blessing. But I honestly, if I think about every couple that I know, I can't think of a single one off the top of my head where both people feel the same about being around each other or people versus having space and me time, so to speak. I can't think of one right now. I'm sure it's possible, but I can't think of one. All right? So if that's you in your life, with the sibling, with the friend, with the parent, with the roommate, respect the balance. You got to respect the fact that you might want a little more FaceTime than they do, and they got to respect the fact that you want a little more FaceTime than they do. All right? And trying to meet in the middle is a show of good faith. It's a gesture towards, shared sentiment. There is no relationship if there is no intimacy at some level, right? Even if it's a minimum level of intimacy, there has to be intimacy present. There has to be some legitimate, agreed upon, and consistent expectation and realization of connection and intimacy, even if it's at a minimal. Even if it's a minimal, you think about, I often use grocery stores as an example, because if you live in an area and you go to a certain grocery store, I'm a foodie, I cook a lot, so I spend a lot of time at the grocery store. I go frequently, right? So eventually I get to know people that are in the grocery store because you see them. And because I love people, I engage. Hey, how you doing? I want to learn their name. And eventually they recognize my face. They call me by name. They remember what I want. They remember what I like. And we build a relationship. It's just the person at the stove, but I love that. One of my favorite restaurants was a place. Unfortunately, they didn't make it through the pandemic. It's very sad. But there's a restaurant up off, I think, Laurel Canyon, I believe. And, it was a privately owned place. I knew the owner. I knew several of the wait staff. And there was one dude that was there. And he learned us so well. We would get there. He would see us. He would just point at a table. He would just point. We go sit at the table. He would come over. Hey, CA. Hey, Kelly. You don't want your usual? Yep. And he would leave. That was it. He knew us that well. Bring us back, and it would be exactly what we wanted. And, for me, once I got to that point, it would be a yes, or I would change it up. And Kelly too. So I would say we. Sometimes yes, sometimes we would change it up. But he knew us so well, he knew the usual, and he got it right. Like, he would automatically bring us the type of drink that we wanted. You know what I'm saying? He would ask, "You want coffee?" Because Kelly sometimes wants coffee, sometimes she doesn't. So he would ask. And if she wanted coffee, he knew how she liked her coffee. Like, I think that's great. There's a certain level of intimacy to that. To me, that is awesome. I love that. That might not mean a lot to you, and that's cool. But for me, that's the best. So that type of relationship was a joyous part of life for me, right? Now, if I was to take that happiness and then expect him to get on the phone with me and to hang out with me and to, you know what I'm saying, and to hang out at our table forever, that's an intrusion of space because he's at work and he might not want to be homies with me. He might not want to be buds or whatever, right? But in terms of the intimacy that we did have at the level where it was, we respected him. He respected us, and he would come up. We would often talk about life. He would share things that was happening with his family. We would share stuff with him. Like we did converse, and we got to know him. And it was heartbreaking when the place had to close. We literally went there on the last day that they were open, and we hadn't been in a while because this was after quarantine. So, we ordered from them several times during quarantine, but, just like a lot of people, you don't know what to do. We did Instacart and, it was washing all our groceries. I remember we were washing every grocery we would get. We were washing the bag for the bread and soap and everything. Just like a lot of folks. Some people went way more overboard than that. But I remember we went on the last day and I saw the owner and she was so down. She was so down. And I was like, "What's going on?" And she was like, "This is the last day." She's like, we can't afford to stay open. And she didn't talk a whole lot. And she just kind of explained it. She was like, "It's great to see you." It's heartbreaking because we had a certain level of intimacy where we understood how much that restaurant meant to her. She had it for a long time. And they just weren't able to make it. Right. So finding the balance. Intimacy, space. Every relationship in your life has that. Think about situations where someone at your job wants more relationship than you do, right? They're asking you to go out, hang out all the time. You don't want to. They want to get your phone number, call you home. Maybe they do it and you're like, "Yo, we work together. Not trying to talk to you on the phone," right? And you explain that in whatever way you want to explain it. Hopefully you explain to them and not, get them in trouble or whatever. How many times have you heard of, if you ever had a friend, for example, who is interested in a coworker and they might go a little too far into the personal conversation, and to the other person it might feel like harassment. It's an imbalance of intimacy and space. At work, there's a certain level of space that is considered to be professional. And if you cross that line, you get into somebody's intimate space. Gotta be careful. Gotta be very careful. Happened to me, and it was tough. I was definitely not interested in anything other than being a pleasant manager to someone, and she thought that I was interested in her, intimately, romantically, and personally. I was not at all. We had to have the meetings and we had to talk about it or whatever. And obviously, think about it. That's a very serious matter. You cannot discount someone who feels uncomfortable, in their interactions with the manager. And I was a manager. Right? So we got to have all the meetings and we got to file all the paperwork and we got to meet with HR and all this stuff. And I'm like, what did I say? Right? We forget that, an accusation doesn't equal truth. And it's because we have to be very careful to make sure we support people who need help, people who are actually being treated inappropriately. We have to be respectful of the fact that, everybody deserves safety and everybody deserves respect. And you know what I mean? So we have to treat that stuff seriously. But sometimes if it's a simple misunderstanding, if the balance is off, then it's like, I can't prove that I meant no harm. I could say it, but then it just, becomes the mercy of the person to either forgive and understand or to use the power that she knows she had. And fortunately, she didn't. She didn't push the matter. She was just like, I just want him to leave me alone. And I'm like, cool, no problem. Intimacy, space. Got to get the balance. Does that make sense? Hope it makes sense. I do, because it really does manifest significantly. Every relationship has that balance. Can't overstep your boundaries. You got to learn somebody's boundaries and you got to share yours. Because some people, I have a friend, for example, who's she's a writer, and I see her as a comedic writer, but she writes a lot more than that. But to me, I think she's a comedic genius. And she and I are both empaths, and we're both very, very extroverted, like very much. We love being around people. So she and I are very, very close because when we get on the phone, we're just so happy to be talking to each other. And when we get together, it's just all hugs and we're just beaming with joy because we know we don't have to hold that part of our heart back. And we just love on each other and we just crack jokes and we talk about life and everything and we share, it's the best. Great friend. She and I have that similarity in terms of our desire for, friendship and intimacy, right? And then we, go back to having the appropriate space because she's married and I'm married, right? Nothing inappropriate. We're close friends. And, and our spouses know each other and everything's on the up and up. But she and I have that in common where we both love being around each other. We both love people. And, we usually try to get groups together. But, y'all know how it is. The older you get, the more it's difficult to get the group together because everybody's got schedules and a lot of people end up with kids. And, it's just tough, right? But that's the similarity that we have versus another friend that I've had from age 19. And for a lot of our life, we were like incredibly close friends, like, inseparable besties. You know what I mean? She is most definitely a space person. She needs her time, right? I was the opposite. And when we met, she was going through a lot of very difficult stuff in her life, and she needed a safe group of people to interact with at that time in her life. That's how we became friends because, I was around people all the time. So a lot of our friendship had its foundation in me pulling her out of the cocoon to meet people that loved on her, that showed her love. That was like, yo, I love you and I'm not trying to get something from you. I'm not trying to exploit you. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I'm not trying to hurt you, right? And a lot of the friendships that I had that I just kind of brought her around, she became really good friends with a lot of those people. And it helped her at a point in her life that she really, really needed it. And because of her strength, if you ever feel like it, take the time to read about the strengths and the differences between introverts, ambiverts, omniverts, extroverts. Read about the strengths of those different I guess, character types, I guess, or mentalities or whatever. Read about the strengths, because there's a lot of things that introverts are very good at and very strong at that help extroverts, and vice versa. Right? It's not just, good or bad. It's not like that. It's just different personality types that give you a different window into life. Right? So, if you can, read up about it, because it, in my opinion and in my experience, it's been very helpful. But the friend I was just talking about, who is very much an introvert. As a matter of fact, two of my close friends are self-proclaimed and true introverts. And she was able to teach me a lot right? I helped her in some ways in life. She helped me in some ways. I actually remember a friend of mine that during quarantine, I was reaching out to a lot of people that I love very much, and that I wanted to kind of check on to see how they were doing. And I called one of my friends who is at peace with his introverted nature, and he knows that about himself. So it's an easily accessible truth about himself. And I reached out, and because I had several conversations recently with people who started off saying, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good." And eventually, very soon for some people, it went from "I'm good" to "I'm not good. I'm miserable. I'm lonely. This is the worst." You know what I mean? I'm sad. I'm scared. You know what I mean? But by the time I got to him, I'm calling him up. "Hey man, you all right? Hey man, you all right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, why do you keep asking me that?" And I was like, I just know if you're doing okay. And he was like, "I'm fine." He was like, I am by myself and happy often. He was like, "This isn't a really big difference for me." He was like, "I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that." He was like, "But yo, I'm doing the same thing I always do. I'm in the studio, banging out work. Rehearsals have stopped and touring has stopped, but I'm fine." And he was like, "How are you?" He was like, "Dude, you all right?" I was like, "No." I just remember that conversation. It wasn't like that, but through the conversation, I had been receiving so much from other people. I hadn't gotten around to my heart and what was going on with me. So because he's a friend of mine, because we're very close, he kind of knew how to ask the right way. He was like, "Yo, you all right?" I was like, "Well, I think so." And now it's a joke with us or whatever. Right? But there's a difference. There's a difference in the way I approach and the way he approaches, and we benefit each other. We're able to help each other, whatever. And finding that balance in your own relationship can make a huge difference, yo. It can be an added strength. It can be a hurdle that you just jump over with ease or trip other people up. All right, balance, intimacy, space, balance. Do it. Goodbye.
If it's my time, then it's my time. Worry about yours, 'cause I got mine. 'Cause I got mine. Worry about yours, 'cause I got mine. 'Cause I got mine. Praise and production.